Hello, all things real time. Welcome. This is a little bit different. We ran that podcast early in the week. Of course, joined as always by Lorimbo, but this time we're looking at one of your replays. Is that right?
Yeah, I decided to prove my credential as a real god gamer to participate in last week weekly tournament against some of the best players in the world to prove that I know what I'm talking about. I'm a good Stormgate player. Right now, I'm playing against Lysergic Acid, at the moment a top 30 player in the world. So someone extremely good. It's an Infernal versus Infernal. I'm in the top right as the red Infernal, and he's the bottom left as the blue Infernal. So this,
your buildings are in slightly different positions. Can you kind of explain like your thinking behind that? Why you put them here versus where you put them? Advantages.
The reasoning is there are a lot at the moment. There are a lot of different positions for buildings. The general idea is to get one bolt and one conclave to go for a gaunt plus brute. Brute opening, and you want to kill the speed camp. That's the idea. Most of it is up to personal preference, but you ideally want to build your buildings closer or faster to get them across faster. So that's the general idea. Builds up changed a bit since when I played this match. I've made some variation, but this used to be my go-to. The reason why we want to go for the speed zone, by the way, of course, is because it has 5 creeps. With the gaunt ability and a bit of kiting, you can kill all of them without losing your brute, while getting 5 fins from it. That's a really strong opening that allows you to have a lot of map control and flexibility. It also gives quite a bit of gold. Now, my opponent is trying to pull a cheeky one on me here. He's gonna try to deny, and he's gonna try to deny my speed instead of taking his own. This is something I've never seen before, to be honest, before this match. He confirms that I'm there with the high ground vision. He splits and goes for my gaunt. There's not that much I can do that. I try to split on my own. Maybe a mistake, honestly. I'm not too sure. I do manage to kill one of the creeps that's getting a third fiend, but he managed to trade pretty efficiently. Now, I'm not quite sure here about what to do. He can't really take this. He can try to kite a bit, but I'm gonna try to deny it as much as possible myself. So the situation here is a bit macro-intensive. All of my units are gonna be rallied, and they're gonna ride faster because this is why I put the buildings like that. He stops to take his own resource, come to have one more fiend, but loses one in the process. So not exactly great. I get the speed cap at the same time and manage also to deny the scout. This allows me to have all 5 fiends here, once again.
So you've kind of taken your speed camp. His is this one on the other side. So he's kind of harassed you and slowed you down in taking yours, but he's now slower to take his, right?
Yes, I decided to immediately punish what you just pointed out by rushing in the middle of the map. Getting these resource camps is very useful. It's a lot of resources, and it allows me to get even more fiends.
Yeah, so and they just nerfed these, because these used to be twice as many fiends, which was probably a bit problematic. There's also your resource camp and his, so that's, I guess, like, they've taken 4 fiends in the early game out for Infernal.
Yeah, absolutely. They've taken 4 fiends less, but it's still very powerful. It's still... He's conceding a bit of map control right here, because he still has to clear the speed camp. And more importantly, since I got so many more camps than he, I got an expansion and he doesn't right now. He's going to expand right soon, but my expansion is already half done. So now we're going to try to contest the vision camp, another important one. I start the fight, I don't realize that he has more units than me. This is a bit tricky of a mistake. I'm in a bad position, but luckily I managed to micro a bit with the gaunts and the brutes, managing to trade well overall. This was a pretty big mistake from my opponent, who was feeling very confident because he had more units. So the good example now, Stormgate, in this little skirmish is how important micro feels. Here I decided to retreat. Obviously, I do get the vision camp eventually. I'm pretty satisfied with this position. I feel like I have an advantage because of all those camps. The resource camps give 25 or 40 gold each, depending on which camp we're talking about. So I'm pretty satisfied with this position. I also have map control. I'm gonna keep it for most of the games. Right now, I already know this. So I just decide to clear every camp that I can, and then see what my opponent is doing. I'm playing this very similarly to how we would play Terran versus Zerg in StarCraft. You just kind of want to get map control, see what your opponent is doing, and then formulate a plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the general idea.
So your kind of plan in any of these kind of Inferno versus Inferno is going to be this kind of opening with the brutes, and then it's a kind of heavier gaunts. You can see a Surgic especially has 3 times as many gaunts as he does brutes, and then you're kind of teching up, and I guess you're always going towards Magmadons.
Yeah, Magmadons. There are some believers in the crabs. I don't remember what they're called.
Hellborn, yeah.
Hellborns, yes. I'm not one of them. I think Magmadons are really, really powerful. Magmadon times especially. And we're gonna talk about that a bit later on. So right now, I'm just interested in checking what my opponent is doing. I know I have an eco lead, so the only thing I'm worried about is the third timing and maybe getting all in. Yeah, you can see that I'm pretty ahead. Now, if you zoom in his main, you're gonna see that one of the reasons why I have so much more is because he's putting 6 on gas, and he's already getting tier 2 and a ritual chamber. This is a pretty bold plan from my opponent, and I'm completely clueless. A Magmadon timing here could ruin me. I'm expanding, I'm taking a third, but I'm completely... This is a very bad play by me. I'm not realizing the danger I'm in.
Yeah,
so
it feels really greedy to me.
control.
I mean, you kind of had your army here, you saw he had no third here, you have a fiend here, you see he has no third here. So, yeah, I think you kind of must know in the back of your mind that he needs to come back in this game somehow, and that kind of is always going to be teching or going for a big push. And
I was worried about the big
tech.
push. The problem is I was worried about the big push here. So I was just massing units. Well, it's not actually making any units, it's just teching up.
Yeah.
So I was just kept massing units because I was afraid of an all-in. And that's definitely the wrong call here. Keep in mind that Magmadon transition are so powerful because they are extremely strong in the Infernal versus Infernal. They do very well against Brutes, and they do insanely well against Gaunts. They slaughter Gaunts. Now here I don't actually see the Magmadon. Unfortunately, I'm a bit clueless. I sent 2 more links immediately because I want to check up on his army and see if he's actually expanding there.
Yeah.
So I'm checking for his expansion, and this is what I'll be doing from now on. He's wasting a bit of his potential right now. I think this was another big mistake by my opponents. He has a pretty strong Magmadon timing here that could put me out of the game immediately if I'm not prepared for it. But he's choosing to play this defensive, probably because he thinks I also have Magmadons. So lack of scouting on my opponent. At this point of the game...
if he sent some fiends across and kind of seen that you didn't actually have that much, or you didn't have any Magmadons, he could maybe, in that moment, choose to go across, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Here I scout my opponent timing, and now I'm really worried. Why is my opponent's third so late? I'm not quite sure. Somehow, despite everything, I still not seen the Magmadons. So my opponent gets some complete map control because I'm really scared to go out. I don't know exactly what he's cooking. I know it's something, so by default I start some blind turrets and immediately transition to Magmadons. What I'm afraid of, I remember in this game, I'm actually afraid of a drop. A go drop in my main, that's what I'm a bit sketched by. It's a really popular play, and I know that my opponent, because I played against him before, really likes doing it. So my opponent is gonna take the resource campus, and probably here was another moment where he could have decided to attack, and I don't know if I could have held. I do have a lot more units than he does, but they are split, and none of them deal that well with Magmadon, so it would have become really sketchy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and especially, once he starts using the trample and then starts generating more of his own fiends, he can start to use the consumability on the Magmadons to keep them really healthy, and the Gaunt DPS is so low, you might, never actually get them down. You do see kind of his whole force here, which is quite nice.
Yeah, finally here I scout what's going on, and I'm so worried, I'm terrified. I am getting my own Magmadons. I had seen it before, actually. When he was taking my resource camp, I scouted the Magmadons. But here I'm in a bit of a pickle. I know I have better economy, but my opponent has a pretty sizable army, and with the I have the gas, more importantly, than for extra Magmadons. These fights can be a bit tricky to play, so I'm a bit worried, and that's why I'm playing so passively here. My opponent, of course, feeling behind, doesn't have such worries. He wants to create an engagement. He wants to create chaos. So right now it's my game to lose, but we'll see if I manage to clutch it up. Yeah, it's being really passive here. I finally feel confident enough with 4 Magmadons, 5 Magmadons. I'm like, okay, you know what? I think this is a good time. Worst comes to worst, I can sacrifice a Magmadon and try to escape. I think I also I'm getting, I either got it already or I'm getting the Magmadon upgrade here. So that feels I see a Magmadon out of position here. I don't really ask too many, but my opponent makes a big mistake and uses all of these trumbles at the same time. So I start using my own, trying to space them out a bit to do more damage, and I managed to get in a good position. Many of his Magmadons go down immediately, and a lot of my Gons are attacking his Gons, so that's killing and creating a snowball effect. So the extra amount of Magmadons plus the better use kinda manages to get me into this game, but at this point he gets us FPG and starts trampling again. This is very close fighting. I get my trample just back in time to clear up, and I see these Magmadons, I'm worried again. So this fight is still not decided at all. I failed to split here because I'm a potato. More cons are gonna show up. There is an insane amount of stuff going on. I'm not even sure what's going on here myself. But I think after all of this, he actually
got you. I think he trampled through your last few Gons.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the other snowball. It's weird these fights kind of flip-flop, bro.
Yeah, despite the mistake, my lack of split was pretty big, and he managed to get back into the game. But he still has the same problem. His economy has not grown all this time. He hasn't really produced many workers. He is getting a 4, but he doesn't have that many workers on gas specifically. So I'm hoping that my eco lead will allow me to win the game, even though maybe I don't have such a good army, just by trading over time. That's kind of my plan right here. I go full Magmadons, of course. While my opponents, I think, starts adding some extra goals. So I think this is another of the mistakes that I've seen him do it before. I don't think that going for many goals is that great of a plan here. I think we should go Brutes, actually. Brutes and more Magmadon. So just adding more production would probably have been better. Once again, I lose control of the map, and at this point the game feels really hard for me. But I noticed that he doesn't have that many Magmadons that are kinda low health. So I'm starting to think that maybe I could just try to take a fight and abuse my Magmadon advantage. So I get this resource camp and I spot the concave. I'm a bit scared here. Do I want to engage into this? Well, for now it's giving me 3 units, so I go for it. But concaves are a big deal in RTS. I eventually choose to engage, I think. I think it's in a bit at least. So he keeps getting this concave. I was really annoyed by this because unfortunately it's a bit hard to go around on this map due to how it's shaped. But he was gifting 3 units, so it wasn't too bad. And here I decided to pull the trigger and just hope that my mass of Magmadons allows me to win the game before his fort really comes online. So here are the tramples. There are Magmadons getting stuck anyway, but I managed to stab most of my goats and dodge the infest from my opponent. I go for an infest of my own. He doesn't dodge. But that doesn't matter too much because my Magmadons are already on top of most of his production, and he also got stuck. So the greater amount of Magmadons allows me to defend this. I drop an effigy to try to save as many low health Magmadons as I can, and I managed to save quite a few, and the tramples are snowballing really hard. The game is still pretty close though. This is not over yet, but the amount of Magmadons that I have is very scary and is not replying to it. This is the lack of gas I'm telling you about. This is what I was talking about.
Kind of remaxing on Gaunts, which is also costing him more gas than if he'd just been kind of trying to snowball the mags, like you said. He also is doing pretty well because his reinforcement comes quite a lot quicker than yours does. But
yeah, at this point I get a monstrous Magmadon charge in the middle of the Gons, and I managed to kill most of them. All of my Gons are really low health. 2 hits and a trample will kill all of them, so I'm just kinda hoping that I can manage to win or at least kill his fort. I drop a tower to try and help me out. He's also dropping towers. Those towers are getting a lot of value, both of them. But I'm feeling pretty confident here. I still have a decent amount of Magmadons, like 3 against 1. I see that he's switching back to Bruce and Gons, so I have a feeling that this might be the end of the game. In game, I'm pretty happy about it. This was actually clutch. I didn't even realize this is the first time I'm rewatching the replay. how close I was to losing, actually. This was extremely, extremely scary. And this also highlights that how in this alpha testing phases, we do a lot of mistakes, right? Our scouting is not clean, our game plans are not as clean, and especially, this is the surprise I was talking about. Fuck, he has a dragon! Ah! I completely forgot about this possibility. This is the reason why he was not making magma. He was gassing. He was
Yeah, setting
getting
up
more
gas and
gas.
minerals, and animus even, probably
Yeah.
for the dragon. Yeah, so now he's going to kind of clear quite a lot of your anti-air, and then with the infest
Ah!
of the dragon getting a lot of free fiends, this is really starting to swing back his way, right?
Ah, yeah, I remember being so annoyed at this game. I'm like, what the hell is going on? What is going on? How did how could this happen? And he starts getting so much value out of this. So much value. I'm terrified. I was so sure I had this in the bag. And suddenly, I can't even get my own dragon because I don't have enough resources because I spent it all on magmadons. The dragon is getting insane value. If I remember correctly, I'm rushing out my own dragon and some shadow fiends. Yeah, some shadow fiend tech, but he's just getting so much value out of this. His economy is in shambles. He lost his fort and I'm getting money, but now he has such a big advantage. The dragon is insane utility. And once again, we see how this matchup is actually fairly dynamic, right? It looked at different times, it looked like it was over, and we managed to swing back every single time. Oh, look at this, he's even focusing. I get my own dragon, I try to fight, but I have a feeling that my opponent has gotten too much value. At the same time, he's attacking on the opposite side with fins. You can see that he's a top 30 player. Look at these moves. He's gonna try to deny my fort while keeping me occupied with the dragon, and I think here he's out to micro me repeatedly badly. Yeah. I'm starting to F2, I'm starting to panicking, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I hate dragon versus dragon fights. I try to infest. Here I remember thinking, wait, does infest even work against fiends? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't anymore.
No, of course it doesn't anymore. So that was a completely wasted infest from me. And yeah, I don't quite know what I was thinking there. He splits the dragon and goes for this base again. I'm like, there are all of the fiends there. He can get all of the fellogs, even with the turret. And it's also destroying this. I'm completely out of position. I was getting the vision camp. I dropped the turret, but it's not enough to save me. I send my dragon. I try to send my fiends, my shadow flyers here, but and this is where I learned that stealing control groups here work like control groups and not like steal shift groups. So I was trying to get them in the same control group by just shift clicking them, and it doesn't work.
No, you were overwriting with the new
yeah,
okay.
it's overwriting. So I couldn't get the dragon and the fiends in the shadow flyers in the same control group. I was so confused. I was like, look, you can see me being mod about it. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm panicking so hard. It's all over the map at this point. It's completely destroying me. His fort is saturated. My fort is still building. And he sends yet another Ramba and I'm forced to go back. I decide to go for the all-in, all-Mary play here. Because I couldn't defend this anymore. So I decided to sack my fort. I knew that I had turrets everywhere. So this was gonna, this was not gonna be too much of a problem, at least. I managed to get a nice catch in the middle of the map. A free Magmanon is nothing to scoff at, but I don't quite get it, unfortunately. The Magmanons with the trample can always kind of escape. And here, he goes back with the dragon. My dragon is out of position. On second thought, I should have just fully base traded. Instead, I tried to go for the all-in without the dragon. And I think this is the last game losing play. He has so many Magmadons, he has so much, he tramples all over me, he gets a great infest on all of my army, and this is it's over, it's GG.
Wow, what a swing, what a comeback.
Actually,
so this was the round of 8, right, that you played in?
Yes, this was the first game of round of 8, it's a best of 3, so don't count me out yet. Actually, I can say it.
Yeah, we can spoil it because that's it for this series.
I actually win this series. I managed to win the following 2 series, but I wanted to show a loss I wanted to show this game specifically. I chose it. First off, because it's a loss and I don't always win. It's important to show that even good players can lose. And I wanted to point out all of the mistakes. But more importantly, this game is a banger of a swing fest.